The air was thick with the kind of heat that clings to your skin, the kind that makes you forget where you end and the world begins. I stood in my kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator, a faint comfort against the stillness of the morning. My fingers gripped the knife as it sliced through a peach, juice pooling on the cutting board, sweet and sticky. I was 34, married for 7 years to a man who was everything you'd want on paper. Stable, kind, predictable. But predictable can hollow you out, leave you staring at your reflection, wondering when you stopped feeling alive. That's where I was, caught in the quiet ache of a life I'd chosen, but no longer recognized. That's when everything changed. My name is Elara Vance, and I never thought I'd be the kind of woman to unravel like this. I used to hear stories of forbidden desires and scoff, certain I was above it all. But life has a way of creeping up on you, slipping through the cracks of your resolve until you're standing in a moment you can't undo. My husband, Robert Sterling, was a good man, the kind who paid bills on time and never forgot to mow the lawn. But he didn't see me, not the way I needed. He didn't notice the new dress I wore last month or the way I'd linger by the window at night, searching for something I couldn't name. I told myself it was enough until Leo Maxwell came back. Leo was Robert's son from his first marriage, 22 now, a college senior who had returned to our suburban Virginia home for the summer. When I married Robert, Leo was a lanky 15-year-old, all elbows and silences, a kid who kept to himself. We never clashed, but we never connected either. Just polite nods and small talk over dinner. I figured time would bridge the gap. Now, standing in my kitchen that sweltering June morning, I realized time had done more than that. Leo wasn't a kid anymore. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a quiet confidence that filled the room. His dark hair fell just above his eyes, and his voice, once cracking and uncertain, now carried a depth that made my chest tighten when he spoke. It started innocently enough. Robert had left for work, his briefcase swinging as he kissed my cheek and promised to be home late. I was in a loose tank top and cotton shorts, the kind I wore when the house was mine alone. I hadn't thought twice about it, hadn't considered how the thin fabric hugged my curves or how the morning light might catch me just so. Leo shuffled in, groggy, holding a cordless drill. "Morning," he mumbled, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Going to fix that loose shelf in the guest bathroom." I smiled, grateful for the distraction. "Thanks, Leo. Been meaning to get to that." He nodded, leaning against the counter, and we chatted about nothing, really. The weather, his classes, the way the neighborhood felt smaller every year. But then, the air shifted. I felt it before I saw it, a weight in the silence, like the room was holding its breath. I glanced at the microwave door, its dark surface reflecting him behind me. His eyes weren't on my face. They were lower, lingering on the outline of my body, unapologetic and steady. My pulse quickened, a jolt of something I hadn't felt in years. Maybe fear, or curiosity, or both. I should have moved, covered myself, laughed it off, but I didn't. I stood there, slicing the peach, letting the moment stretch. The drill slipped from his hand, clattering against the tile, and we both jumped. "Sorry," he stammered, cheeks flushing as he bent to pick it up. "Slipped." "No worries," I said, my voice too calm, too controlled. He muttered something about needing a screwdriver and left the kitchen, his footsteps quick and uneven. I stood alone, the peach half forgotten in my hand, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. It wasn't just the awkwardness of the moment, it was how it woke something in me, something raw and reckless, like a match struck in a room full of gasoline. Upstairs, I locked my bedroom door and lay on the bed, still in that damn tank top. My hands traced the curve of my stomach, not because I meant to, but because I needed to feel something real. Leo's gaze had burned into me, not the clumsy stare of a college kid, but the look of a man who wanted something he knew he shouldn't. And God help me, I liked it. I liked the way it made me feel seen, desired, alive. I told myself it was a fluke, a fleeting moment I'd bury by dinner, but the truth was I didn't want to bury it. I wanted to chase it. That night, dinner was a quiet affair. Robert rambled about a new project at work, oblivious to the tension simmering across the table. Leo barely spoke, his eyes fixed on his plate, but I felt him when I asked him to pass the salt. Our fingers brushed, and the air crackled. His eyes met mine for a split second, and it was like he'd said 1,000 things without opening his mouth. After dinner, I washed dishes alone, the clink of plates grounding me. Leo lingered in the doorway, not speaking, just watching me. I didn't turn around, but I could feel his presence, heavy and warm, like a storm waiting to break. Neither of us said a word, but the silence was loud enough.
The next morning, I was careful. I dressed in a t-shirt and jeans before heading downstairs, determined to keep things normal. But normal was a lie, and I knew it. Robert was gone all day, some client meeting that would stretch into the evening. The heat was unbearable, the kind that made your skin itch for relief. I suggested to Leo that we use the pool. A casual idea I told myself meant nothing. He hesitated, then nodded, and I felt a thrill I couldn't name. I chose my swimsuit deliberately, a teal bikini that hugged my hips and dipped low in the front. I told myself it was just for me to feel good in my own skin, but I knew better. When I stepped outside, Leo was already in the pool, his arms stretched along the edge, water glinting off his shoulders. His eyes followed me as I walked past, subtle but unmistakable. I felt powerful, wanted, and it was intoxicating. We talked easily at first, about his roommates, his music taste, the boredom of summer in the suburbs. He laughed more than usual, and I caught myself smiling, really smiling, for the first time in weeks. When he offered to grab drinks, I nodded, and he returned with 2 cans of seltzer. His fingers lingered on mine as he handed me one, and my pulse spiked. We weren't pretending anymore. In the shallow end, his foot brushed mine into the water, and I didn't move away. I let it stay, let the contact linger, let the heat build. Need sunscreen? He asked later, his voice casual, but his eyes anything but. I nodded before I could think better of it. He moved behind me, his hands slow and deliberate as he rubbed lotion into my shoulders, then lower, tracing the curve of my spine. His touch was careful, respectful, but it was more than that. It was intimate, like he was memorizing me. I closed my eyes, my breath shallow, my skin alive under his hands. When he finished, he didn't step away, and I didn't want him to. Later, as I stepped out of the pool, I tripped on the concrete edge, a clumsy stumble that could have sent me sprawling. Leo caught me, one arm around my waist, the other gripping my wrist. His hold was strong, his body close, and for a moment we were frozen there, my breath ragged, his eyes locked on mine. I could smell him, chlorine and faint cologne, a scent that made my head spin. He steadied me, then turned away quickly, but the moment lingered, heavy and undeniable. Inside, I locked myself in the bathroom, towel wrapped tight, staring at my reflection. My cheeks were flushed, my eyes bright with something I didn't want to name. "What are you doing, Elara?" I whispered. But the answer was already there, pulsing in my veins. This wasn't a game. This was dangerous, and I was running toward it. By dinner, I'd convinced myself to let it go. I texted Robert, asked if he wanted leftovers saved, tried to anchor myself in routine. But Leo walked into the kitchen shirtless, hair damp from the pool, and asked if I needed help with the vegetables. I should have said no. Instead, I handed him a knife. We moved around each other like we'd done it forever, but it was different now. His hand grazed my back as he passed. His eyes flicked to my lips mid-sentence. I caught him staring, and he didn't look away. The air was thick with everything we weren't saying. After dinner, he stayed while I washed dishes, leaning against the counter, his presence a quiet challenge. "It's quiet tonight," I said, desperate to fill the silence. "It's not quiet," he replied, his voice low. "I can hear your heartbeat." I froze, my hands still in the soapy water. He stepped closer, not touching, just close enough for me to feel the heat of him. "I'm not trying to make this weird," he said. "I know you're married. I respect that. But I can't stop thinking about you." I should have stopped him. I should have reminded him I was his stepmother, that this was a line we couldn't cross. But I turned around, looked into his eyes, and saw a man who wanted me. Not just my body, but me. I dried my hands, walked past him, my shoulder brushing his chest, slow and deliberate. He didn't follow, but he didn't need to. The message was clear. That night, Robert texted that he'd be staying overnight for work. I poured a glass of wine, told myself I was just unwinding, but every creak of the house made my heart race. Leo walked into the living room, fresh from a shower in a gray t-shirt and sweatpants. He asked if I needed company. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, the silence between us alive with possibility. I offered him wine. He accepted, his fingers brushing mine as he handed me one, and my pulse spiked. We weren't pretending anymore. "Are you happy?" he asked, his voice cutting through the quiet. I didn't answer right away, my chest tightened, the truth too heavy to speak. "I used to be," I said, finally. "Sometimes I still am, but it's routine. I don't feel seen." "I see you," he said, his eyes steady. "I notice everything. The way you bite your lip when you're thinking, the way you laugh, the way you look out the window like you're waiting for something." My breath caught. No one had ever seen me like that, not even Robert. Leo leaned closer, his voice softer now. "I've tried to ignore it, Elara. I've tried to do the right thing, but I want you. Not just, I want to know you. I don't care how long it is." I set my glass down. He did the same. When our lips met, it was slow, deliberate, like we'd been waiting forever. His hands found my waist, mine his chest, his heartbeat racing under my palm. When he kissed my neck, I tilted my head back, letting the world fall away. His fingers slipped under my shirt, and I didn't stop him. I wanted him to know me, to feel what I'd been hiding. When it happened, it was deep, controlled, his eyes never leaving mine. He watched me, guided me, and for the first time in years, I felt whole. After we lay together, his hand on my stomach, the room warm and heavy. I knew it changed everything. I knew there was no going back, but I didn't regret it. Not then, not when his fingers traced my skin, not when he kissed my shoulder and whispered my name like a prayer. The next morning, he was gone when I woke, the sheets still warm beside me, relief and loss tangled in my chest. Downstairs, he was drinking coffee, his smile careful, like he was afraid to break something fragile. We didn't talk about it, but the air was different, charged with what we'd done. His eyes followed me, his body always half turned toward mine, waiting for a sign.
That sign came 3 days later. We were in the living room pretending to watch TV when he asked if I was okay. "I'm not sure," I said, and that was enough. He took my hand, pulled me close, and this time it wasn't gentle. It was desperate, urgent, like the days apart had only sharpened the need. I let it happen, let myself be consumed. But the weight of it started to settle in. This wasn't just physical anymore. It was something deeper, something I couldn't compartmentalize. Leo started texting me when he wasn't home. Small things, like how he missed my smile, or a song that reminded him of us. I should have stopped him, but I didn't. He started helping around the house, fixing things, cooking when I looked tired. It wasn't a game. He was showing up for me in ways Robert never had. Then he said he didn't want to leave at the end of the summer. Not for school, not for anything. "Because of me?" I froze. "You know who I am," I said. "You know what this could destroy." "I don't care," he said. "I'd rather destroy what's fake than walk away from what's real." That night I cried alone, because he was right. My marriage was habit, not love. What I had with Leo was alive, electric, but it was also wrong. The guilt crept in, heavy and relentless. I couldn't look Robert in the eye. He noticed something was off, asked if I was okay. I lied, said it was work, the heat, anything but the truth. He believed me, and I hated him for it. We got reckless. Stolen moments in the laundry room, the garage, late at night in the hallway. Every second alone was a chance we couldn't resist. Leo started sleeping in my bed when Robert was away. Not just to touch me, but to hold me, to ask about my dreams, my fears, my life before this. He listened like it mattered, And when he kissed me, it felt like he meant it. But summer was ending. Leo's classes were starting. He asked what I wanted. Really wanted. I couldn't answer. I wanted him, but I didn't know if I could burn my life down to have him. "He'll wait," he said. But his voice broke, and I knew he wasn't patient. One night Robert came home early. Leo and I were in the kitchen, not touching, but close enough to raise questions. Robert froze, his eyes narrowing. I smiled too quickly, said we were cleaning up. He didn't push, but the look he gave me said he saw something. Later he asked if anything was going on. I said no. And it was the last time I lied without flinching. Leo left 2 days later. We didn't say goodbye properly. Just a hug that lingered, a look that said everything. I watched him drive away from the upstairs window. My hand clutched the curtain. He still texts me. Sometimes I answer, sometimes I don't. It's not over, really. I don't know if I'll leave Robert. I don't know if I'll see Leo again. But I know what I felt, and it was real. Messy, wrong, but real. And that's the part I can't let go. Thank you for staying with us through this story. If you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button for Amoratham. Your support means the world and keeps us sharing stories that resonate. Don't forget to like if this tale moved you and join our community for more heartfelt narratives.